that are going to struggle when they're removed. For example, Rek'Sai is nerfed. For example, Rel is nerfed, which a lot of junglers relied on Rel. And is there anything else that I'm missing? Like core champions. Azir got nerfed a little bit, right? And Zac, but I don't know if those two nerfs are enough to kill the champ. Anyway, okay, that's disgusting. In terms of raw form, I would favor 369 over Bin. Now, just touching on the LCK a little bit, I mean, Zeus got outperformed in that finals really hard. Zeus was invisible in the finals. If you only watch the finals, you would say that Zeus is a B-tier top laner. Zeus struggled with Rek'Sai. I think Rek'Sai was something that he never really picked up properly, and other people did. And when other people were playing things like Rek'Sai and Rumble and Cassante, Zeus's idea of the meta shifted to range tops. I don't know why, but he was playing things like TF and Vayne, basically. I don't know who was adamant in TF being the strong champ, because all throughout the regular season, this motherfucker would just blind Aatrox every game. Look at that. And then you get to playoffs, and for some reason he's maining TF, and he's playing Zac in here and there. His Zac was not bad, I'll give him that. But if you look at his finals performance, you'll think that this guy's... I mean, Zeus was disgusting in finals. Like, he is in his The Shy arc. I mean, just count the scoreline. It's basically the Shy World Finals all over again. Getting perma-caught on side lanes. Zeus, I think, out of these four top laners, I would say Zeus has the better lane phase of all of them. When he is playing at his peak, and Zeus has very high highs. Like, he's just inconsistent. I think... Personally, his lane phase is the best of the four when he's in his mode, you know? The problem is he's not in his mode, and he choked a little bit in that finals. Getting solo killed by Cassante twice was really uncommon for him. It's funny, because all throughout the regular season, you'd look at it and you'd be like, wow, Zeus is just gapping everyone, you know? I'm not gonna just be a stats Andy, but he was gapping every top laner. Just he perma died. Then you get to the playoffs and like... To be down 2 CS on 15 on average when you're playing range top laners a lot is disgusting. And I know that I think 1 or 2 games he got lane swapped on. But being down to your opponent in CS when you're being a range top lane main is like... you can contextualize stats in that sense where you're like, how is that possible? So Zeus, I think, has slipped a little bit for me. I'm going to put him in A tier. I think Zeus is a really good player. I think he is... if he gets his shit together for MSI, and Rek'Sai being nerfed will help him, I think he's easily an S-tier top laner. He's one of the best top laners in the world. And I think the biggest thing for Zeus is Rek'Sai nerfs are huge. I wouldn't be surprised to see Zeus be the best top laner of the tournament. I wouldn't. I think the meta is good for him. It's not bad. I think the meta is pretty good for him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Zeus be the best top laner in the tournament. I feel like I've got a bit more info on Keen. Because I sat down with the Relevant and watched about 4 or 5 of Keen's, 2 or 3 of Keen's games from his POV. And the only problem I have with Keen right now, in my opinion, is Keen. Everyone's hyping him up. I do think he's a Cassante merchant. I do. I am sold that he's a Cassante merchant. Rek'Sai nerfs coming in won't hurt Keen too much. He didn't become a Rek'Sai merchant. But he is a Cassante main, and that scares me a little bit because... I mean, his Rumble was good. But with Rek'Sai being out and Cassante being his blind pick, when Aatrox is picked a lot and Camille is back in the meta, I feel like other players will kind of gloss over him a bit. Is he a Camille player? No, not really. Because I personally think, the way the meta's been shifting, Camille is going to be a really strong top. Galio might be quite strong. Aatrox will be strong. Renekton will be strong. So obviously he can cover off a few of those. The only problem I have with him is his champ pool. I think his laning phase is incredible. I think his map play is good. His team fighting is insane. So for me, he's an S tier player. But I worry about his champ pool a little bit. Man, where should I put Zeus? I feel like with recent performance, he's A tier. With regular split performance, he's S tier. I would say he's A+. But the problem I have with this is, I think, personally, at MSI, I think the best performing top laner at MSI will probably be Zeus, if I had to gamble. Because I think he is least affected by top lane changes and most benefited by top lane changes, IMO. So yeah. Or is he? He's not. He does have a few Camille games, right? He just hasn't been playing for long, I think, is the problem. But I'm going to put him in A tier. We'll see what happens. Bin. Bin is the tricky one for me. I think Bin's in A tier with Zeus. I don't know what to think about Bin. Like I said in those finals, I think 369 was the better player, but Bin is an insanely good top laner. I think Jax is permabanned versus him, of course, and he is a bit of a Jax merchant. All these top laners play the same thing. They just play Aatrox Cassante. Bin is really good. He can play everything. Obviously, he doesn't play tanks as much, which is the notion around Bin, but I think he can play tanks as well. What is my problem with Bin? His Rumble's trash. I'll give him that. His Rumble is dog shit. He is a mediocre Rek'Sai merchant. What is my problem with Bin? Is he inconsistent? What were those semis like? Like I said, by the way, I'm doing this live. I was going to pre-record this, but I'm doing this live. So that's why I'm probably going back and forth. What happened this series? Is Bin too aggressive? No. I think Bin's solid.
What the hell?
I'm thinking about A tier. Bin is solid.
I just fucked it up.
What were these semi-finals? I don't remember what he played. This was the 5-game series. Rek'Sai, Renekton, Rek'Sai, TF. The TF game was good. Was it good? Yeah, it was good, right? What was the TF game? Game 4? Something is stuck on my face, and it hurts. No, it wasn't game 4. Am I blind? I swear that was 4. Oh, it was 5. Oops. I can't count. Yeah, I remember this game. He was smurfing on TF this game. He was a really big pain point on there. Obviously, TF's a side laner, right? He was a really big pain point for Tess having to catch sides before objectives. They were always pushed in, like mid waves, side waves. Everything was just... He just covered it off well. It was one of his best games. But I don't like the idea of having Bin in S. I don't know. Does this look weird? Does that look weird? I don't think that looks weird, right? I think 369, Keen, and Bin are world class. And I would put Zeus... I honestly think all the top laners coming from the eastern region are all insanely good. There's not a top laner where I'm like, yeah, they're kind of mid. You know, if JDG was here and Flandre was here, I could see it, you know? If Hamalife was here with Doran, I could also see him being a tier down. But I actually think all of these top laners that are at the tournament are all insanely good. The only reason for me putting Zeus in A tier is I can find flaws easily in Zeus's recent performance, but I can't find flaws in other top laners' recent performance. Keen's not S tier, bro. Keen is easily S tier. Keen's lane phase was on par with Zeus throughout the regular season. His lane phase was on par with Zeus's. He didn't play as much Aatrox blind. He was obviously playing his Cassante blind. And in playoffs, he outperformed him. So I think overall, that is a very safe assumption to say Keen's in there. I think 369 is the best top laner of the tournament. So I could make a tier S plus and put 369 in it, but I feel like that's doing Zeus dirty, because this is the problem I have with tier lists, right? I think moving forwards, I had an idea for this tournament to do like 4 categories and rate out of 10 on those categories. And that would be a much better measure of the player rather than they are this letter because of this. But I'm going to put Zeus in A tier. If you hate it, I'm sorry. But I think Zeus is just... I think Zeus... Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Alright, Oscarinin, I think, is the worst top laner of the tournament. I personally think Oscarinin is the worst top laner of the tournament. He's had a really rough year. Really, really rough year. I hope he can bounce back. I don't want him to see this and think like, wow, I'm being shit on. I think he can just go in there with no...
Just put Zeus at bottom of S tier and move on.
I think he can just move into the tournament with no pressure. It's his first international. He doesn't have to sweat it. Or is it his first international? Did he play at Worlds last year? Am I high? It's his second international. Second international. Go in with no fear. Just play your heart out and do your best. He's like the least experienced and yeah, he had a rough year. So I mean, there's nothing to defend. Oscarinen was the weakest player on Fnatic. I was thinking of Wunder for some reason. Yeah, Oscar last year was pretty good. Oscar last year was really good, but this year I feel like Oscar's yeah, his lane phase has been weak. He's been randomly getting solo killed, caught out. His finals was okay the last game, but yeah, some of these games he was obviously another problem I think he has is the lane swaps. I think he has not got much of a clue what he's doing in some of these lane swap, and his Zac was a very big band-aid to some of his games. You could see in a lot of these games he was just completely out of it. He's still a good player though. I think he has a high ceiling. I just think he's lost his momentum and his confidence. Impact, Broken Blade, and Bwipo I think are all really good. I think Impact's... I want to put Impact above Broken Blade personally. I know people think Bwipo is the best top laner of the West, and people argue between Broken Blade and Bwipo being the best top laner in the West. If I had to... The way I'm rating this is if I had to have a top laner on my team to play the game at an international, and I had to choose between the three, I would choose Impact. I'll give my reason, of course. I think Impact is such a reliable rock, and I think if you look at the styles of teams, how can I show you all the teams? I'm gonna put all the teams here, right? And I'm gonna tell you about the styles of teams, right? How many of these teams are top-sided teams, right? How many of these teams are top-sided teams? I would argue these are the two top-sided teams in the tournament. Would you agree? And the rest of the teams are mid-bot-sided. I would not argue T1 is a top-sided team. I don't think Zeus gets, like, resources, you know? I wouldn't argue that they're... BLG is not a top-sided team. Are you fucking... Oh, where's BLG? Oops. Yeah, BLG is not a top-sided team at all. I don't think it's a bad way to play. But I think, for example, a nice example would be like if Gen G went against FlyQuest, I think both of them have kind of similar styles, you know? Like their bot lanes are a bit weak. And this is all on paper from games you see on stage, obviously. Their bot lane looks like the weaker version of the team, and their top side is just insane. Their mid jungle is insane. And I think FlyQuest is kind of similar. I think Bwipo is the best player on their team. I actually do. And I think Bwipo Inspired is an insane top jungle. But I just feel like if you go against a team like Gen G, you'll lose. If you don't get a big enough top side lead against teams like you know, T1 or Top Esports, you'll lose. And I feel like their style won't really match well into the better top laners. Like, for example, against Impact, it didn't work very well. Impact's just this fucking rock. Kiaya, I've been seeing a lot of what's it called? Stats of Kiaya, and apparently he's insanely good. Broken Blade, to me, the reason Broken Blade is he hasn't shown me enough, personally. I feel like I get this notion from when I see Broken Blade is he is smurfing domestically, he gets to internationals, and he is invisible. He is just invisible. And I think he becomes a liability sometimes in internationals. And I don't care if he solo killed top every game of the entire split. I would never put him up here. Because when he gets to international, and he does well, is when I'll start to reconsider it. And I'm sorry if that's not a good enough analysis, but I think in isolation, if it was domestic tournament, I think Broken Blade is the better top laner. But Impact is better in internationals and more reliable. And Bwipo's style is so incredibly aggressive that I feel like it becomes something you have to play for. And I think as an isolated top laner, he's insanely good. But I'm not a fan of the way the game's played. Not to say it's a bad thing, you know. I don't think Bwipo's bad at all. I think Bwipo is, like I said, the best player in the tournament. And he leads the fucking charge. But actually, maybe Bwipo is really good. I don't know. Rating these three is hard. Do you want the reliability? Do you want the carry top, or do you want the top laner who's really good domestically, who's never really shown international? Which one do you want? I personally think this is stylistic choice, and that's why I said I think it's hard to rate. It's hard to rate these top laners, you know. Because again, you could argue Zeus has the higher ceiling of the 4 and a better lane phase. You could argue Tristan has the higher reliability. You could argue Keane is choking in internationals and playing bad. You could argue Bin in his last international best of 5 in the semis, he underperformed and got outperformed really hard by the Shy that cost him an entire semi-final. You know, I think there's arguments in every direction, and that's why I think a lot of these tier lists are subjective. So I will argue that personally I would favor Impact on my team in International. Broken Blade's shown a lot and is a really strong top laner and flexible, and Whippo is an incredibly good carry top laner. I think all of them, I don't like this notion of B, but I think they're all about the same, and you can choose which one you think is best. Alright, I think that top lane list is fine. I think I'm happy with that. I don't think there's anything too egregiously crazy in there. Is there? You could do something really funny with support. Yeah, I could. Alright, let's put them all at the bottom here. So, let's do jungle. See, jungle is where a lot of funny stuff's gonna happen. Jungle's where a lot of funny stuff will happen. I'm gonna go ahead and say it because everyone's thinking it. Canyon's the best jungler in the world. IMO. He's instantly S tier. Like, and I don't think you can ever use the argument that Canyon will underperform an international, because every single international Canyon's been at, he is stepping up. Is sometimes the sole reason that he drags his team across the finish line sometime, and is the only reason that they're even competitive. I think he's the most creative jungler in the world as well, in the sense that he will play picks. The second he picked that Kha'Zix in that game in the finals, and he won on it, and he played well on the Kha'Zix, I knew this guy is uncontestable, because he is willing, especially considering they're on match point. Now, it might not, it's only one pick, right, and it's hard to read into, but I think he has the confidence and the champion pool to pick picks that are sometimes unconventional in necessary situations, and in sense that is like a clutch factor, you know? And I feel like that's another reason why I think he's the best jungler in the world. He's just a GOAT jungler. I think there's this guy's so insanely good. It's crazy. Why not rate? Listen, I haven't watched the minor regions. I don't want to get into any like minor region stuff. I don't know them well enough. If I had watched a region for the whole split, I would do it, but I'm not gonna do it. Anyway, Canyon best jungler in the world, hands down. And my other strong opinion that maybe some people will disagree with, I think Tian is maximum B tier. I actually might put him like lowest of B tier. Listen, I am a Tian hater. I personally am. I've watched Tian for years, and I have seen him at every international. He always has a problem. Domestically, he's good. Like, he's a good player, and he is a strong jungler. And when Tian's on the ball and he's feeling it, he is like a proper good jungler, you know? But the amount of games, like Tian, I feel like, can sometimes just lose the game too quickly, too suddenly, and too easily for your team. And he is just a liability, you know? And I know he's a world champion, and you can say, KJ, and I know Dom is a huge fan of Tian, and he loves Tian, he calls him the GOAT. Listen, Dom, just like you're the Shy hater, I'm a Tian hater. I'm putting him in fucking B tier. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't think Tian's that good. I think he's a strong jungler. He's average, and well, not average. He's got high highs, but his low lows are the lowest lows of every jungler this tournament, and he's disgusting. And some of these, he not only, like, there are junglers who can run the game down and like path badly and get caught on crab and die, and then there are junglers who suck their team in to say, if I don't get this buff, I'm out of the game. And when they do that, and his whole team dies for it, that motherfucker gets banned. And I feel like Tian does that. That's Tian, you know? So those are my two strong opinions. As much as the first one might be normal, I feel like this one maybe people will hate me for that one. But yeah. Alright, let's go Owner. Owner, I'm going to put him solid, like super good A tier. I've had problems with Owner over the last few years. I think this split he's been decent. The problem with Owner is he's a rel merchant, so the problem with Owner is the rel nerfs are gonna hurt. They're gonna hurt, and people will watch Owner this split and be like, "Wow, his Lee Sin's not that good. His Lee Sin's insanely good. His Lee Sin's his most played all time." And I think some of these games, I'm not going to give the context, I can't remember all off the top of my head, but I don't think you can look at this stat and say Owner's a bad Lee Sin. I don't think Owner has champion pool issues. I think, actually also, by the way, Tian, quick thing before I move to Owner, Tian, you're a fucking Viego merchant. I'm just going to say it. You were a Viego merchant all of last year. Was it last year this motherfucker was a Viego merchant, or was it season 12? Season 12. This motherfucker, absolute merchant in season 12, and he's bringing it back. I can see him slowly bringing this. This Viego game was like one of his best games I've seen. Crazy. Almost carried the game by himself.
What the? What the?